Hi, I'm Megan Weaver.
And I'm Marty Noxon.
And this is My Addiction, where we talk about all things addiction, from the super silly to the very serious and everything in between.
Yep, that is correct.
I'm an interior designer. That's my bread and butter, as you guys know. That's my profession.
And it's not in quotes. It actually is your profession.
Yes, it's a profession. And I spent many, many years on Jeff Lewis Live on Sirius XM, so you probably heard me there. I was his co-host for a while, as well as on some of his reality TV shows like Flipping Out and Hollywood House Lift. And that's me.
Yeah.
What's you?
What is me? That's a bigger question. That's a different podcast.
Okay.
No, I got my start as a writer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then went on to do a lot of stuff you haven't seen or heard about, and then finally, more recently, have done stuff like Unreal, Sharp Objects. I worked for a little while on Grey's Anatomy, so I am obviously a doctor.
Yes.
I am an expert on medical conditions if they've occurred on the internet once. So if you've had your artery severed by a pole, but it's still in there, holding your blood in, I can tell you what to do. So, no, I know nothing. But I do think I know a lot. So that'll be super helpful.
Okay.
And the biggest thing that sort of relates to this, I would say, is the film To the Bone, because that was pretty semi-autobiographical, and it was about my struggle with eating disorders and, really sort of delved into this topic of, for me, that stuff is sort of the same as any other addiction in that you're trying to get out of your own head. You're trying not to be here. And in some ways, in the case of anorexia, it's pretty literal. You're just trying to disappear. But that, I think, was part of why I wanted to do something like this, because it's been such a big part of our lives.
Yes. And I want to say that I loved To the Bone.
Okay, well.
This is not like an interviewer and an interviewee where I'm like, I loved your movie. Your movie was fantastic. And not just because I was in it, or I was kind of in it.
You were the good kid. You were the good sister.
I know.
I mean, you really were.
I realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are sisters. We should probably mention that.
Yes.
We are sisters. We are
indeed.
stepsisters.
Yeah.
My mom married your dad when I was like 5.
Yep.
And we have been, doing this thing.
Yeah.
The sister thing.
We've been doing the sister thing. Yeah. For a long
quite some time now.
Yeah.
I mean, like 50 years.
Yeah.
Very long time.
Many years.
And here we are.
And so, oh God, I had a whole kind of life before my dad met your mom, and y'all it's really interesting because we kind of have like two different family stories in a way until we merged.
Yeah, the merge.
The
big merge.
Is pretty common, even though our parents aren't even though we're not related by blood.
Right.
Very similar histories.
Sure.
Yeah. In the sense that there's a lot of addiction on your side.
Yes. Lots.
And there's lots on my side.
Yeah.
And you wonder if there was some but you said something interesting, which is that I don't think your mom's one of us.
I don't think so either. I think that my mom, before she met your dad, we can just call them Nick and Nikki. How's that? Does that make it
Nikki
easier?
Noxon, and what did their license plate say?
And Noxon.
Yep. And Noxon 2 or something. Yeah.
But Nick and Nikki Noxon.
Nick and Nikki Noxon.
Which is kind of fantastic. My mom wasn't a big drinker. Nikki wasn't a big drinker before she met your dad.
Yeah.
Before she met Nick. And it was really, she said that Nick who taught her how to drink.
Yeah.
Because my dad didn't drink.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of when
Nick who taught all of us how to drink.
And smoke pot.
And, by the way, one time I was looking for like, I don't know, Staples or something. Cocaine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a well-rounded,
That blew my mind. Because I was
I didn't find that in his
no.
sock drawer.
No.
I found the weed, but I didn't find the coke.
Unfortunately, this was before my, sort of like, not only would I drink whatever you had, I would take whatever you had.
Yeah.
Including one time in Santa Cruz where I went to school, I found a bindle, which is a little, paper thing where, sometimes you get Coke. And I found a bindle on the street.
Yeah.
And I snorted it.
Ooh.
It was
Risky.
crystal meth.
Risky.
It was crystal meth. I was up for 3 days.
I bet.
There's
pinned. Completely pinned.
Yeah. No, boy, everything was, I know this is a cliche, super clean.
Yeah.
And I was at Santa Cruz, which is on this hill, and then town is like 5 miles. I walked to town, I walked back, I walked to town, I walked back.
That's crazy.
And I think when I snorted it and it was burning, really burning, I was like, that's not
normal.
Cocaine.
Yeah,
but that shows you how much regard I had for my own life.
Right. Yeah, no, we grew up with Nick and Nikki, and there was a lot of alcohol.
Yep.
We want to, talk about that.
Yeah.
But not scary for me personally.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a scary alcoholic.
Yeah.
I grew up in what I perceived to be a fun, loving party household.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
I didn't feel there wasn't like an alcohol abuse kind of situation that was, frightening for a child. For me, it was just a lot of parties.
Yeah.
And that was that. But, apparently it did have an effect.
Yeah. Well, and, well, that's a good place to segue.
Okay.
You mentioned that you were on Jeff Lewis Live.
Yes.
And really your character was kind of the floozy, blonde, hot mess drunk.
Correct. Emphasis on hot and floozy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, naturally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that was sort of, and it wasn't really a character. It's who I am and who I was.
Yeah.
I should say who I was.
Yeah.
A heavy drinker and getting into, kind of some precarious situations.
Yeah.
Still a good mom.
Yeah.
But again, hot mess mom.
Yeah.
And that's what I leaned into.
Yep.
Because it was, people thought it was funny and relatable, and it seemed to make him laugh, and it, I liked being that, persona. And again, it was the truth. It was who I am, until it wasn't who I was anymore.
Right. And what was interesting about you on that show, at first, there's so many things about the show that are really fun and funny. However, you guys talked about drinking all the time.
Constantly.
And there would be, I'm not going to do that again. That was too much. And then the next episode would be like, oh my God, we got and the consequences kind of, and I had to stop listening because I kind of started to get a little worried about you.
No. We would do these things where we would be like, okay, I'm not going to drink for 3 days, or let's not drink for 5 days. Or, and I would do it a lot,
Yeah.
He'd say, how many days have you not had a drink for? And I'd be like, 2 or 3. We'd count. Yeah. And that's usually kind of a red flag.
Yeah. A little bit.
Right. So, yeah, those were always like these little challenges,
yeah.
Or I know that I did that for myself, is I'm going to not drink for 2 weeks,
yeah.
And then ultimately I wouldn't make it.
Yeah. That was always part of the joke, is that you lasted.
How long did you last?
Yeah. So, when did you first start really drinking? Like, how old were you when you started? Like, what's the origin story? What's your villain origin story?
Well, I don't think we have time for the entire origin story, but I can just say, like, the Reader's Digest condensed version.
Okay.
Is it? Yeah, I grew up in a family of heavy drinkers, and just, it just was normalized to me. And I drank a lot and drank a lot and drank a lot, and I had a couple kids, and I was functional, but I still drank more than, your average bear.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't a problem. It didn't feel like, until it became a problem.
Right.
And when it became a problem, I recognized it and asked for help.
Well,
what do you want me to get into? Which part of it?
Okay.
What deep dive?
All right. There's a little bit of a public flame out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. You can do it. Oh, God.
There was a little bit of a public flame out is what I'm thinking about, because you got into a Bravo feud, which, by the way, I should say, like, I feel like we could do My Addiction just about Bravo people.
Yes, we could.
Could just be
Yes.
the whole show.
Yes.
And
Well, there's a lot of
obviously-
people getting sober. And,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
just-
in that
yeah.
world, because
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
But obviously, there's a lot of crossover, and I saw you at a family thing, and you were like, I may need to hire a crisis PR person, and you were so freaked out. And so, of course, I went and did the deep dive.
Right.
And now you can pick it up, because
Yes.
there was a feud. You had a feud.
Yeah, there was a feud. God, I'm never gonna get away from this. But yeah, that was part of the lowest low for me.
Yep.
And that was the beginning of, you know, the big dark spiral, right? Which is when I realized things were not working out.
Yeah.
That you're talking about Heather McDonald, and when I got very, very drunk, I shouldn't laugh, but it's kind of funny now because we're really good friends, which I love that for us.
I can't believe that you guys have repaired that.
I know,
it seemed like scorched earth.
Oh no, from enemies to really delight. She's a delight, and I love that she's in my life this way. Yeah, so Heather McDonald, for some reason, there was some animosity in my heart towards her, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was an ego thing. I think it had something to do with being on the Jeff Lewis live show with her, and she, you know, she's the Heather show.
She's a big
personality, and it always and it's funny. I love that about her now.
Yeah.
Because she's really, really fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And you know, my ego got in the way, and I didn't love that she talked over me and she tripped. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt kind of dismissed, and you know, if I would have just had a private conversation with her, but I didn't. Instead, I got super drunk, and I decided to berate her in front of a few people in a backyard party.
Yep.
And it was, you know, it was kind of one of the worst things I've ever done. You know, like it is not my shiniest moment. In fact, it's the moment I regret the most.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beginning of me starting to take a look at my drinking and going, this is not really, you know, working out.
I mean, I think that for a lot of us, like when the professional, there's two things. I think that there's the kid stuff. If you have kids or a partner or anybody in your life who's being impacted by it, that can be a real motivation. And then the other thing is when it crosses into your professional life and you're jeopardizing things.
Sure.
So I remember you talking about that and thinking, because you said, you know, on air that you had a lot to drink.
Oh yeah.
And it didn't sound like you.
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, when you start to become somebody you don't recognize, then you really know that this is something you've got to look at and ask for help.
For me, that was trying to make out with the DJ at this club I used to go to the second time I got sober. And I was like, it had always been a fantasy of mine. Like, I was so low self-esteem that I was like a cover band groupie. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't feel like
not
a
the
groupie.
real thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've never been the hot girl who, like, gets to make out with a DJ. And I just ended up with this gross guy with a fedora, like, you know, making
not a
out.
Fedora.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So that's when I knew I was like lower companions.
The lowest of the low.
And also the fact is that the kind of like the to-do list for me when I started drinking this, you know, when I relapsed was this stuff like that. Like, I just want to be the hot girl at the club that the DJ wants to fuck. It was so childish. I just had like, no.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I want to, you know, drink champagne on a yacht. It
no.
was,
you wanted to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, go back to
dirty,
the past
dark, right?
And redo, you know.
Right. Like a VJ, like an MTV VJ, you know.
Yeah, no, I was definitely pursuing some like teenage dreams.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and then that was it. And then, you know, I think that ultimately, if you want to talk about just really quickly, like the rock bottom and where when I decided to stop was that Heather incident. And then I had some really kind of like life-changing things that I had to go through.
Yeah.
And I knew that I had to go through those sober. You know, one was leaving a very toxic environment and leaving that friend and boss behind.
Yeah.
And the other one was, you know, a romantic relationship. I broke up with my partner who I'd been with for 7 years. It just wasn't working and I needed to handle that. Yep. And then my daughter going off to college, you know, to New York City. And those were 3 big life-changing, you know, moments that I needed to make sure that I was completely clear for, you know, and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so I did.
I mean, it's funny because, like I said, I was definitely a little worried for you, just based on, you were so high functioning, but you were also this other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, all out of the blue, you send me a picture of your 30-day chip.
Oh.
And I got really emotional, and
Yeah.
I was so, obviously we're going to talk about our involvement in 12-step program.
Sure.
And, I think the important thing to say there is, like, we are so not experts. And, obviously we choose to break our anonymity, but, the thing is, don't look to us as anything examples of the program except for our own experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, like, there's many different ways to skin a cat. I hate that expression.
Yes.
But there are, and that
So does my cat.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, kitty.
Anytime I say that to the cats,
They
they
just
get
don't
really
like it.
upset.
They
Yeah.
don't like it. So we're gonna look at all kinds of different
Yeah.
sides of this thing and silly things and
Yeah.
and all of it. But I want to talk about you
Okay.
and your origin story. I mean, you don't have to go that far back. But,
Yeah.
about how you got sober and when you got, because you did it a couple times. You had a couple chapters.
I had a couple chapters. I thought about I have like a keychain where I kept all my 30-day chips
Oh.
from this last time that I
Yeah.
tried to get sober, because oh man, so anyway, yes, one of the things I want to say is that this is sort of a big tent idea of what we want to do here, meaning there's no one size fits all, trying to find solutions that are, different things that work for us, but also just different things that work for different people.
Mm-hmm.
But my experience, I got sober first when I was not very young. I wasn't like 9, but, and yeah, I was just really supremely uncomfortable in my body,
Mm-hmm.
and as we talked about, my first drug of choice was not eating or eating too much and purging and all that kind of stuff. But then I finally, because I was 21 and I was like, oh my gosh, now it's legal, it won't hurt me. I don't know what that, because before that I was like, whoa, drugs and alcohol are not a good thing for our family. But then I was like, somehow it was like, oh, 21, now I can handle it.
Right.
I could not handle it. But the thing was, like, it really felt like as soon as it went in and it really affected me, I was like, oh, this is literally like the medicine that I've been needing this whole time. This is the secret sauce. Like, why has nobody, like, and by the way, like, being anorexic at parties is not fun.
No.
It's like you are afraid of food, so you run away.
Mm-hmm.
Or people are asking me all the time, they're asking me, are you 12? Because I look like a child.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
I wore, like, pants that you got from, like, the
Baby Gap.
Yeah, Baby.
Really? I mean, seriously.
It was scary.
I know. I was there.
Yeah, and I didn't last. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I could drink. And suddenly, really, honestly, for one of the first times in my life, I picked up a guy.
Right.
Nothing really big happened, but I was too afraid to, like, I'd never really been kissed.
Right.
By 21.
So you got the liquid courage? Is that what happened?
Liquid courage. And I took this guy down.
Oh, sorry. Maybe TMI. Sorry. You're too young. Anyway, moving on.
I took him. I was thinking of, like, the Serengeti when you have those darts,
Right.
It just was like, bang.
Yes.
And, he was mine. Yes. But yeah, I recognized also that I could be pretty, like, outgoing and charming. Anyway, so the crazy thing is start drinking, and then within 4 years, I have hit bottom. I've had lots of really bad things happen.
Yeah.
That boyfriend turned out to be a drug dealer. Which,
Right.
We can talk about addiction to bad men another episode.
Sure, absolutely.
Because that's been something I've had to work on a lot. And everything, I got fired from a waitressing job because I was stealing wine out of the box. I mean, it was obviously a really fancy place because they served box wine.
Some of it's really good.
I don't know. I just remember that I was doing it at work.
Yeah.
And I thought they couldn't tell because you can't see the levels of the wine in the box.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, they could
I
tell.
get that.
They could tell,
All right.
it turns out. So I got fired. And then I just remember everything was just going more and more wrong. I thought I was really a funny drunk. Nope. Toward the end, I was a mean drunk. And,
Okay.
But I was blacking out all the time, so I didn't know.
You didn't know you were mean.
No, I thought I was great.
Right.
And I just remember, like, the moment that I thought I've got to change my life was, like, I'd had a horrible, horrible night the night before. And it was the day after 4th of July. And I was sitting there with this horrible, horrible hangover and regret about all the things that I'd done the night before. And I just remember I'd always thought, like, when my life gets better, I'll stop drinking. Because I knew I was an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
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 I was not in denial. I was like, yeah, you'd be too if you were me. Right? Like, I was very much on the pity train. Like, but then, that it just flipped. And I was like, wait, what if I quit drinking? Then maybe things will get better.
Huh, that's
miracle,
that's
right?
an idea.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yeah. And
Right.
and here's, the other really unusual part about my first sobriety, and we can talk about the other one another time, but this one.
Yeah.
Because I've been sober over 9 years now.
Right.
And
Happy
you're
birthday. I think I'm about 17 months.
right on.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it still amazes me. It still makes me
I
so
can't
happy.
fucking believe it.
It makes me so happy.
Me?
I know.
Sober for
Your
17 months?
Your identity was very wrapped up in.
Yeah, with like my friends too. Anyway, yeah. So go on. So the
So,
first time.
The first time this is just part of, like, why I think we're so interested in sort of big tent ideas around all this stuff, whether you have a benign addiction or whether a 12-step program could work for you. My first go around, I ended up at a meeting that was for a group that had, like, a lot of people were like, these programs are cultish. This was just actually kind of a cult. I mean, it was an AA. It was a 12-step program.
Okay.
But there was a charismatic leader, a guy who was in charge and, like, set the rules for everything, including stuff like on Saturdays, we all had to go to, all the newcomers, all the young people had to go to his house and play. You were playing volleyball. Like, that was the thing. And it was mostly guys who were playing volleyball.
Okay, was his name Keith Renier? Because this is sounding.
No,
okay.
I can neither
Okay.
confirm nor deny.
Okay. Charismatic leader, volleyball.
Yeah.
For the
Skinny
guys.
women.
Skinny women.
No.
Okay.
No, it was a 12-step program. It was
Okay.
not that.
All right.
However, I would have not been surprised if it went there.
Okay.
Like, but you had to go to his place, and then you had to clean up all the dog shit
Oh.
for him before you could play volleyball. And then there were other rules, like you weren't supposed to get outside help.
Like therapy.
Yeah, no, that was, and by the way, like, that is nowhere in the 12-step program.
Right.
Nowhere does it say we don't
See
get outside
doctors
help.
or go to
It's
therapists.
like we realize we know only a little.
Yeah.
We'll see more, right? That's one of my favorite things is we realize we know only a little. It was 70 years ago that these guys
Right.
wrote this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like dudes, white dudes,
Yeah.
who were super religious.
Right.
Like, yeah, you know only a little.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things we want to talk about is we know so much more now. And also, women don't really exist in the book as alcoholics.
Yeah.
No, we're wives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're wives.
That's our role.
We're to the wives.
Right.
Yeah, and then when
We
they
have
do
alcoholic husbands.
yeah.
Like you do.
Exactly. And we're so tolerant.
Yeah.
But then the one time they mention women, they're like, man, if a woman starts drinking, she goes to pot like fast.
Right. Hysterical drinking. Yeah.
Just
downhill.
down the tubes.
Right.
Those ladies.
Right.
So, yeah, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that these were things. I didn't really understand that this is not how it's supposed to work. And so, no outside help, no medication, all that stuff. And it was structured so that, you could really, like, achieve, And one of the things they had were AA musicals.
Oh, for the love of God.
Yeah, for reals. And
Show me.
yeah, so I was a young AA ingenue.
Of course you were.
Yeah. And I played Bakersfield.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but okay.
There's a convention in Bakersfield. There's a
Okay.
convention down in Palm Springs. There's all
Okay.
these like conventions. And we were known, our group was known for putting on like big shows, great big
wow.
shows. And we would base it on other musicals.
Okay.
So I'm like in my late 20s singing, I am 16, going on 17. I know I shouldn't drink. Like stuff like that. And
Terrible.
it was terrible. But it was also like, then I started getting into like, I got an attitude, right? Like
Right.
I'm a big deal now because I've
Playing Bakersfield.
I played Bakersfield.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there were all these things like you have to have a lot of sponsors. And then there was this giant meeting one night a week and really over 1,000 people. I should say for
Like
people.
a mega church.
Like kind of like a mega church.
Yeah.
But I should say for people who might know what I'm talking about, it also helped a lot of people who needed
Right.
a lot of structure and and it continues to, right? So that works for a lot of people. I ultimately, you know, had to book it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I finally got up to like the big meeting. I was the 10-minute speaker before the big speaker. Like that's a big deal.
Okay.
Right? And I killed it. I had like a tight 10.
Okay.
You know, I felt really good. And then one of the I was, you know, milling about afterwards, and one of the old timers, you know, who's also like, you know, super respected, he comes up and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "You're going to be a big star in AA."
Oh, oh God.
And fortunately, I went, "Oh my God, that is not why I got sober."
Yeah.
I mean, I realized that I was doing that thing where somebody gave me like this sort of like, you know, like a sober Marty is a Marty who has a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And I had sort of forgotten the goal.
Right.
So that was sort of the beginning of the end. But I left ultimately, I think, with a lot of resentments.
Oh, right.
And because I was like this place,
Towards the program.
yeah, because it's like they allowed this patriarchal, you know, danger. To
Just
me,
icky.
it was dangerous
Yeah.
because if you need to be medicated and you're
Right.
not,
Yeah.
you know, if you're not treating those
That's
things,
not
you're
cool.
more likely to self-medicate with other stuff.
Sure.
Like I was just like, I don't like, you know, so I came away feeling really icky.
Right.
And I
You had a bad experience. Yeah.
Yeah, but I stayed sober for another 15 years.
Okay.
Just kind of on my own steam
Yeah.
until I was like, that was just a phase.
Right.
You know,
I'm good.
I'm good.
I got this.
that was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was so young. I just
Yeah.
needed, and,
Yeah.
you know, I totally can handle it now.
Yeah.
and here I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we are both, you know, in recovery.
True.
like-
that.
I'm a little curious, like, because I felt like nobody knew that I had a problem. Do you remember anything about?
I remember. I'll tell you what I remember about you. I obviously remember when you had anorexia.
That was a nightmare.
That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
That I can feel like and remember very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Then you went away to college.
Yeah.
And then when you I don't remember. I remember one time. I remember we
Oh,
were in
boy.
Mexico,
Oh God.
and I was like 19.
Yeah.
So I had been drinking. I'd started my drinking
I do
career.
remember this because
But-
me and Tracy.
Yeah, we got fucked up. So we
Every
went
day.
to Zihuatanejo was the place that like our parents loved to go.
Right.
And they would take us, and this is one trip when I was 19, you were whatever, and we all all the brothers and sisters that went, and we got very, very drunk. And you were one night you were being spun on the dance floor
Yep.
by Christopher.
Yep. Yep.
And Christopher is my stepbrother, her brother. And did he let you go, or did you let go
I
of
think
him?
he thought he was gonna spin me.
Yes.
And basically what happened is I was so loaded
Yes.
that when I hit the ground, I was laughing,
Yes.
and I basically knocked the two
Teeth.
front teeth out.
The teeth were gone
And
on the trip.
Yeah, and the thing
On
about
the
it
trip.
was that I didn't remember it until the next morning when I went to brush my teeth.
Oh,
And two of them
Were
were
gone.
essentially gone.
now that I remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
no,
I do
that's
have,
pretty.
so
That's
there's
pretty
snippets,
memorable.
but you know, I don't remember that being traumatizing.
No,
for me.
because we were all getting messy. Like that was the trip.
That was
you
the
remember
trip.
we used to sing "Mr. White Pants, Send Me a Drink."
Mr. White Pants,
send
bring me a drink, make it delicious. Yeah, we would do. Yep, the guy was amazing.
We were on the beach, and Mr. White Pants
would bring us
bring
margaritas.
drinks. So we just we were fucked up. And
I mean, from like all day and night.
That was my favorite kind, though.
Yeah. Well, you're on vacation.
Yeah.
So you don't have really any responsibility, and you know what I mean. There's nothing.
But then
there's
I
no
was
one
on
to answer
vacation
to.
I used to say that if I could get like a intravenous drip of like champagne or something just all day long, and I could I could push the pole around with me, just the right amount, so I could just be the right amount of drunk.
Okay.
Not blackout.
Right.
In the party zone, meaning.
But then you could also never have a hangover.
Yeah. No, just keep it constant.
Oh, forever.
Yeah.
just until the end of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
I gotcha.
Yeah.
No responsibilities.
Yep. No, I know. Total responsibilities. I just have this like pump.
Surgically installed in my arm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I getcha.
Yeah.
I remember you only a couple of times. I remember you being inebriated.
Like trashed.
Yeah. I remember your sobriety much more.
Yes.
And I remember your sobriety because it was unusual.
Yeah.
Meaning nobody in our family had been sober. I didn't know anybody sober.
Yeah.
You know, I was still pretty young
yeah.
when you got sober, but it just was a very foreign concept, and it felt very weird. and yeah, very weird.
Why would you quit it completely?
It just seemed culty.
Yeah.
It seemed like something's not right with her. I don't know. That's not normal. Whatever.
Yeah.
You do you.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that much judgment around it. It just didn't. It just seemed weird. I remember that, and then I remember a few years ago I was drinking, and you invited us to a beach house that you had rented.
Oh,
and we were gonna have lunch.
Yep.
And I went with Tracy and my daughter, and I brought a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to drink wine.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't care that you were sober. Because alcoholic.
Yeah.
Put it in your fridge. And I think like I had it in a cup or something, and you almost took the cup and almost drank what I was drinking because you didn't know that I brought pink wine. Right? It looked like and then you realized it, and you're like, oh my God, that would have been really bad. And I was like, oh, relax. Calm down. What, you would have had a sip of rosé? Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember just being like, God, okay, well, you didn't. It's fine. But and that's funny because that comes back to me that like, well, yeah, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
that
is a very big deal.
Absolutely be a huge thing.
And how selfish I was to I felt like, why would you bring a bottle of wine to a sober person's house when there's nobody else really drinking?
When it's 11 a.m.
Come on, exactly. 100%. So those are just like some memories that I have that come to mind of you. But,
I'm having a couple of memories, more of our family, because I didn't really see you. I mean, yes, I ran into you at Countess Luann's Christmas show.
Oh, yeah.
And you were mobbed, by the way. And you're the sweetest person because I come up to you and they're telling, oh, Megan, you know, it's just this little mob of, like, let's be honest, like sweet gay boys.
Yeah.
And they're just like, their eyes are like hearts.
Aww.
And you're pretty trash.
Yeah.
And what you want to talk about is me.
Yeah.
Because you're so sweet. And
I'm
you're
so
like,
proud of you. Yeah. I'm nobody compared to you.
That's what you said.
You are
what you said. You were like,
genius.
Forget about me. This is my sister.
Do you know what she's done?
Do you know what she's done?
Do you know what show she's created?
And these guys are looking at me like,
do you know what show she's worked on?
Don't care. What I was remembering, so that was one where I was like,
pie-eyed.
Yeah, you were,
yeah.
And but it seemed kind of delightful, and you were so nice to me that why would I have a problem with it? But I'm remembering, like in a family story, do you remember when your mom decided that she was going to stop drinking? When Nikki decided she was going to,
go to Betty Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she went to Betty Ford outpatient.
Yes.
And what the real reason was because she and Nick were fighting so much when they drank.
People do tend to do that.
She told me later that this is so codependent. It's delightful.
Yeah.
She hoped that if she stopped drinking, Nick would realize that he was also an alcoholic.
Right.
And that he would stop.
Yeah.
It was really more about like, I'm trying to sneak him into Betty Ford. Maybe
Right,
he
without
won't
him knowing.
notice.
Yeah, maybe he won't notice, but he'll
So
just quit.
we were in like a family, I was, 4 or 5 years sober. So I was like, oh my God.
Right.
Here it goes.
This is going to be a domino effect. The whole
this
family's
is
going to
be
get
the,
sober.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is going to be the thing.
Yeah.
And I was so like vibrating with excitement, and we do the family thing, and Nikki talks about herself, and I talk, I'm sober, and da-da-da-da-da. And they get to Dad, and he's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking if these guys, if Nikki has a problem, then I definitely have a problem. And I'm like, this is it. My whole life's about to change.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a sober dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a sober mom.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why it's so moving to me that I have a sober sister.
Oh.
Yeah. And that there's that communication and closeness
Yeah.
between us.
Yes. It's amazing.
Yeah. It really is. It's just a gift.
I agree.
Okay. Well, let me, I'll just finish the thing about Dad.
Okay.
Because he said, then I really have a problem. And the counselor said, well, if you think you do, why don't you go for 3 days without drinking?
Mm-hmm.
And then next time we all get together, just tell me how that went for you. And again, I'm just like beside myself. I'm
Right.
like, oh my God. So we go to lunch afterwards because it's outpatient.
Yes.
And Dad orders a beer.
Right. Of course. Does a beer count,
We never speak of it
Again.
Never.
Ever.
No, ever.
Never.
So,
No.
so that's the thing is I feel like with you, it was just like super high functioning.
Yeah.
And it was really only toward the end, as we talked about, when I could kind of hear it in the radio show.
Yeah.
I felt like, yeah, I didn't like what I was hearing.
No.
On many levels.
Aw.
So yeah, and then you were actually on vacation when you sent me that picture of the chip.
That's right. I was in
And
Anguilla.
I know.
Yeah.
You have taken so many fancy vacations
Sober.
with people who drink.
Yes.
I-
Not drinking.
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Early on, I was like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Because you have a lifestyle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. It's not easy in the beginning, but it gets much, much easier
Yeah.
to not drink on vacation or around people who are drinking. It's just, I want to take it all in and be alert and
Yeah.
feel it all and see it all and be present for it all and
Yeah.
wake up refreshed and go for a hike and, all the things
Yeah.
that we all know that we feel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, so I was a little bit like, I'm not sure, because also like you just hang out with like billionaires.
Not really.
I hang out with my cats.
Right.
Who
Not
I
so
won't
much.
skin,
I
I
mean,
promise.
Yeah.
Well, kind of. You're a little fabulous. Like
No, I'm
yeah,
not.
a little.
I've taken
Admit
it down a notch.
Okay.
All the fanciness, I've taken it down.
But it
a
was
notch.
kind of like you were slow rolling out of that.
Yes.
Right? So you were
Yes.
still committing to a lot of these trips. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like
I know it's a lot.
she's not at the meeting this week.
right.
Because
She's
she's
on another
in,
trip.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
with, they're all in Cabo.
Right.
Or she's on that yacht.
Right. Aw.
And then, so
I
I was a
love that
little,
I love it.
I know.
I know. I
Will you
love my
take
friends.
me next
They're
time?
so sweet. Yeah. No. I'm trying to mellow. I'm trying to keep things a little.
More chill.
Yeah.
More
I'm
chill.
happier.
Be more chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happier on the.
Well, we both now share a really rigorous napping schedule.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's
Gotta
like
get my
our
45 minutes.
it's like
in.
our white wine, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3:45, 4 o'clock.
Down.
Got to go
Out.
for 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
I go for 1 or 2 or 3 hours.
Nice. All right.
I have the craziest.
monumental. Yeah.
I have the I mean, this is
You're like a cat.
I am.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I get up and I'm up real late,
Yeah.
and then I go to sleep again.
Right.
I don't know. It's a very strange pattern right now.
Well, it's working for you.
And if I have things that go much past 4 or 5,
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I gonna get?
When am I going to get a nap?
What am I gonna do? I have
How's
to
that
go
gonna work
all
out?
day.
I know. I feel like
just
that too.
all day.
I count my hours of sleep. Listen, I was weird before I quit drinking about my sleep,
Yeah.
about how many hours I was getting, obsessed about the amount, how much time, when am I going to go to sleep, when do I have to wake up, how does that mean, how many hours am I, And I'm still like that.
Yeah.
Still like that. Obsessed with my sleep.
Yep.
You could say I'm addicted to sleep.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know. We'll have to talk about it.
I have to talk about that with my very special talking doctor.
Okay.
My STD.
Is that what we call them?
My special talking doctor.
Okay. Okay, my special talk. Okay, what do you talk about with your special talking doctor? Naps?
Naps. I do. We talk about that. But here's a fun little idea I had.
Okay.
Okay, so I feel like each week would be nice to talk about something that we're currently obsessed with, maybe potentially even addicted to.
That you and I are.
Well, just us, and then when we have guests, because apparently we're going to have guests.
Okay.
This is just a little fun game we can play. Like, what in the last week or so, or recently, has been something that you feel could become a problem?
Like you're obsessed with?
Yeah, a little obsession.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's the game.
Oh, I know. We're playing it now.
Okay.
Oh, God. Okay, what am I obsessed with? Well, I can tell you this, that I am getting a little too hardcore into my garden. Now, I know it sounds benign and it sounds a little boring, but it's becoming an issue.
So
it keeps getting bigger.
Like plants?
Everything.
Because that's sort of one of the first signs of being a lesbian.
Oh, shit. You think I'm a lesbian?
Do
you know how excited I would be if that were true? If this is really a sign, then this is good news.
I feel you. No.
This is good
I feel
news.
you. For the first time in my life, it's so boring because I feel like when you become a certain age, being bisexual is sort of like, now it's just expected.
Oh, it is?
If you're a divorcee of a certain, me dating women is so not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
So I'm trying it.
You are?
Sure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So far, so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are. You're dating the men and the women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Yeah.
Shit, I can't even start doing one.
No, I'm trying to help you. But okay.
I can't even
do
plants. So my lesbian gardening is getting out of control because it started as one little area in the yard.
Yep.
It was just a raised bed that I got off at the internet, and I had the lady come over and help me how to plant it, but now it's expanding. And I had to get 3 more.
Happens.
And then now I did an area where I planted an orchard, or like 6 fruit trees.
You personally planted an orchard?
No, I paid someone to plant the orchard.
Okay.
And the orchard is 6 fruit trees, which I don't know what constitutes an orchard, but
I think once you get over 4.
And they're in a row.
Yeah.
Right? And they've got like the little well.
That's a flippin' orchard.
And they're in decomposed granite.
Nice.
Like Tuscany.
Nice.
Okay, so I've got that area. Then I got a whole other area. And now I got the herbs, and now I got to go get the tomatoes. I think I missed blueberry season. So I'm obsessed. Okay, so that's what's going through my head.
That's what's going through.
And it's expensive, and I'm trying to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
But this garden thing, that all goes up the window.
Well, and the other thing is you have no experience and have never really planted anything before.
0 experience. No idea what I'm doing.
Because you were telling me a lot about plants before this, and I was like, oh, really? So you did that, and you were like, no.
No. I know nothing about gardening. I know nothing about planting. I will kill everything. In fact, I do buy some of the herbs that I plan on putting in my raised beds, and then they just die on the windowsill.
So this is a lot of speculative.
Yes, I never get them from the windowsill into the raised bed in the backyard.
All right, so this could be a problem.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think I have a problem.
Okay.
All right.
We'll keep an eye on that.
How about you?
This is unhealthy, and I know it's unhealthy because nothing will ever change.
Okay.
I'm a big Southern Charm fan.
Right. Who isn't? But I get it.
Okay. Love the show. The men, and I know that is kind of what the show is about, is that these men are giant children, and they say it all the time. But the unhealthy part is that I keep watching.
Yes.
And
even though you loathe these people.
I yell at the television. I still watch it, and I still think they'll change.
Oh,
so maybe it's just it's the pattern in my relationships that I'm addicted to.
I do watch it. I have a little bit of a different opinion than you do.
Well, you told me they're tall.
They are tall and handsome.
Really? Yeah, but they're tall and they're kind
very
of
tall drinks of water. I think
Okay.
they're all even more so in person than on
yeah.
the show. They
I
are
think Craig in particular
stunning.
is great looking.
Stunning.
Stunning.
Men. Yeah, stunning.
Wow. Is it okay?
So I can't get quite past that. I feel like they have. It seems to me from earlier seasons, personally, feel like they have matured, but I might be blinded by the light a little bit
Because you saw the light in person.
Because they're just. I
yeah.
think there's.
Well, we shall see.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's
That's the thing. We'll see what happens.
we'll see
if
whether
they've changed.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like I either need to stop watching,
Maybe
or I need to stop
expectations,
yelling and expecting them to be better people.
But you know what? You don't want to stop watching.
I get to keep watching. I need to stop complaining about them in particular, and it helps me to think that they're really good looking in person.
They're really good.
Okay, that'll help. All right.
They're very good looking men.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
That was our game.
All right.
So, you know what? This is not just going to be the two of us talking to each other, although clearly
There's no shortage
No.
of things to talk about.
No.
And we could talk about our childhood for like 6 weeks.
no, it's
Straight.
We've just scratched the
Yeah.
surface.
Yes.
We're going to have future episodes.
Yes.
And
Well, I hope we're going to have future. Do you think we're just one and done? This is it. It's been real nice.
yeah. That's why I made tote bags for just today.
Just to remember today. Because
Okay.
it was so good.
It was so good. Yeah. Remember? Okay, that one time.
Commemorative tote bags and mugs
Yeah.
to remember this day. Okay, and then so we are going to have guests. We're going to talk about not just all things like alcohol and drugs, but
For
we're going to
sure.
talk about quirky addictions, things you just can't stop doing that might be not that great for you, might be okay, might be just something you can't stop.
Like Amazon shopping.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Like when you get boxes and you're like, it's like Christmas because
Yeah.
you don't know what you ordered.
Yeah, and you weren't drunk when you ordered it.
Nope.
So you should
Nope,
remember.
This is a sober issue.
Yeah, but you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Too many tarot cards. We could also talk about phone addiction.
Phone
like,
addictions.
Meaning social media.
Yeah, so we're
It's huge. I mean, when I talk to my daughter who's 20, this is so many of her friends are addicted to social media. She's like, all the guys I know have been or are addicted to porn.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's a huge thing.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. No, I think that's a big thing.
yeah.
The phone is definitely a big thing. I find myself just trying to put it like to try not to look at it in the morning.
Yeah.
All bets are off.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Well, one of my habits is that I listen to audio books.
Yes.
Books.
Yep.
Constantly.
Yeah.
So I have to look at my phone.
Yes.
that.
To look up your
Yeah. But I'm a sporadic when it comes to social media and dating apps. Like I jump in and out, which is kind of infuriating for others. Yeah. And
ghosting.
then
We'll have to talk about dating apps. We'll have to talk about all
it's
the
true because
all
once
the
you get into the
things.
gamifying of it,
Right.
yeah, and the fact that people can get addicted to the next person, the next thing.
Right.
Right?
There's too many options.
Too many options, and it can become a real problem because there's always a better thing around the corner, right?
Or a different thing. Speaking of being addicted to social media, which I can say I'm a little addicted to social media, but there is this one guy that I follow, and he's so sweet, and he's sober, and he always has like some of these little nuggets of wisdom for sobriety. And he does say that being sober is always feeling a little bit good. And he's saying basically that you're just kind of at this place where everything's just a little bit good, meaning the highs you're not having these high highs or these very, very low lows. You're just kind of like at this upper little bit good all the time, which I kind of like.
Well, okay, I'm gonna take a different position.
Do it.
Which is, I think that maybe when I'm gonna big sister you. That's
Okay.
what I'm gonna do.
I love it when you big sister me.
I'm not very good at it, but
You are good at
okay,
it.
I'm very encouraging. I'm
Yes,
an
you are.
encouraging person.
Yes.
But and here's some encouragement. Like,
Okay.
I think that when you're in the first, everybody's different, but when you're in the first couple of years, it is just often it's just a little bit good.
Yes.
Unless you get a pink cloud and you're just like obnoxious about it. And
No.
everything. But most people, I think it is just a little bit good,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit better.
Mhm.
But I'm here to tell you, like, at 9 years sober and really working on my recovery and not taking it for granted,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably the happiest I've been in my life. And a lot of it is my relationships, you know?
Right.
It's like I get to have we both have kids who we adore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Oh,
but the
me
idea,
too. You're making me cry.
but the idea that I'm the person they come to when they have a problem,
Yeah.
and I'm not the problem,
Yes.
and that you get to be the person they trust and love, and
The
you're
most.
safe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, like, look at us. Like,
Yeah.
we have this new, much deeper, beautiful relationship. I mean, all the things that really matter come into focus. And I feel
Sure.
like I want to extend to you the promise that it gets better.
Yeah.
And that, of course, we've been through some stuff.
Yeah, we have.
You
Yeah.
know, in our family, we had a lot of grief and
Right.
a lot of loss.
Yes.
And even feeling that is a gift,
Right.
you know?
To
Because,
feel the feelings.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, when you look around and you're like, I am present in my own life.
Yes. I do
And-
love that.
Right?
Yeah. And I do have to say that even though I think that, I'm always feeling a little bit good, I mean that in the most positive way
Yeah.
because I wasn't feeling that way. I
Right.
was feeling a lot of bit bad, you know? And
Yeah.
and things are 100 trillion times better
Yeah.
with clarity
Yeah.
and being, not drunk or not, not hungover. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the
Yeah.
world.
And
Yeah.
like, we now go to one, a meeting that we both really love.
Yes.
That's, not culty.
No, not
mostly,
culty.
mostly not culty.
Yeah.
But like seeing the light come on in your eyes.
Yeah.
And, you just started to look better and, and then, yeah, have these stories. And yeah, I can see you also taking better care of yourself and being more protective.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to like witness that. And then for the first, like, remember we talked about the Betty Ford story? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
now I get to share and you get to share, being the two people in this family as of yet, who are changing the story.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love being sober with my sister.
Yep, we're gonna get up to no good.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously we're on all the socials with, at My Addiction Pod, and one of the things that I am really excited about for the show, and honestly, like, as goofy as you and I like to be together, the goal is to help people and build the community, just like we were talking about.
Absolutely.
So I really hope that people use the socials to talk to us, talk to each other,
Yes.
that we would love questions and feedback.
You were
because-
available, and I tend to. I'm good about my DMs. I answer all my DMs, and there have been a lot of people who have reached out before this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Asking for advice.
Yeah.
As a newly or trying to be a sober person. So more of that, please. you
Yeah,
know?
I'm not good at my DMs.
Okay. So DM me. I will answer you.
And
You can also at
yeah, that's
My
what
Addiction
I mean.
Pod.
Like, if
Yeah.
you do it on our, our show socials, we'll definitely be looking at that. And if there's questions, and yeah, I mean, the whole goal and the hope is that we build some community, maybe a Facebook page, stuff like that, so
Yeah.
that people can find each other. Because for me, the 100% thing is being able to share this experience. And like, I called you
yes.
a couple of weeks ago because I
Yeah.
was like, what? They have Red Bull and vodka in a can together? And for whatever reasons, that was a trigger for me.
Right.
And I was also in Florida.
Yes, you
Yeah,
were.
which was a trigger for me.
Right.
And I had to call you and I was like, I'm having a craving like I haven't had
Yeah.
in a long time.
So glad you did call me too, because it was, that was really special to me, and to be able to help you because you've been so helpful to me. That was a very, see, I know I'm going to get emotional. That was a very pivotal moment in my sobriety that you could reach out to me.
Yep.
With all
Goes
of your
both
years.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really helped me. So it shows you that, to me, that's like an essential thing, that you have
Yes.
people, because, I'm 9 years, I don't think about it hardly ever.
Right.
And then it just hit me out of the blue.
When
And
you
I
least
think I was
expect it.
sitting on a bunch of emotions, like
Yeah.
the fires had happened here and all
Sure.
that stuff. And I was not remembering why I shouldn't
Right.
have a cocktail.
Yes.
Especially a canned Red Bull and vodka, which is so
Genius.
gross.
Whoever thought of that,
Yeah,
give them a
oof,
medal.
No, it's sort of like the DJ,
No,
the
yeah.
gross fedora
gross
DJ of
DJ.
drinks.
So we're here for you.
Yep.
Reach out
Yep.
and check out our next pod.
Yeah.
Next episode.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All 7 of you.
Thank you so much for listening to My Addiction. As a reminder, this podcast is meant for entertainment. We are not medical practitioners, and anything on the podcast does not constitute medical advice or treatment. Please consult your own medical professionals at all times. My Addiction is a Tiny Pyro production. It was created and hosted by Marty Noxon and Megan Weaver. It is produced by Marty Noxon, Megan Weaver, Maria Grasso, and Lillian Holman. Our graphics were designed by Lane Bynum. Our social media is managed by Aziza Abba Boutain and Ashley Lindsay. Special thanks to Allison Shano, Rebecca Steinberg, Amy Steckdaub, and Melissa Tavarit.